Oddly enough, I've been asked a lot about Gravebloom in the 3 Golem build in Season 11 PTR, and I'm happy to report it's arguably going to be one of our stronger builds this season, so let's go ahead and talk about it. It's a lot of fun, it's a lot more active than a typical minion build, and all of a sudden when you add 2 more golems to your build, it becomes a lot more interesting to play and pilot than the previous golem build was, which I poo-pooed on. Let's go ahead and just roll some footage and talk about the strengths and weaknesses, what you can expect, and why I think that this build finally has a place amongst the meta. This is now the 3rd season in a row where we've gotten a minion-specific unique for the Necromancer, so at the very least, it seems like the developers are aware that we, the Necromancer players, want to play minion builds. Weird, I know, right? But with the addition of this mace, we got a new alternative version. This feels very much like the Hand of Nas, where it is transformative, offers you something you couldn't do previously. Now, this follows right on the coattails of changes to the Hulking Monstrosity board, that basically says if you sacrifice all your other minions, your golem becomes a Giga Chad LeBron dunker. And my major issue with the build before is that it wasn't realistically doing anything different than a regular minion build would be doing at the base level, like on paper. It is a thing that is looking to do very spiky damage. Here with the Golem activation, a normal minion build with the Ring of Mendeln. And ultimately what you're doing is you're trying to proc Decrepify as fast as possible, be able to activate something, whether that is crowd control, Bone Prison to be able to get a damage multiplier, etc. And here, what we're obviously trying to do is activate our Golem as fast as possible. Not only do 2 of the Golems do damage when they activate, but on top of that, we have the Fell Gluttony aspect, which is obviously going to be run on any Golem build, because in addition to giving it a second damage proc when it activates, it's also going to make it so that it just has a damage scaler in the first place. But this build really doesn't start to feel good until you remember that they made a very key difference to the Kalan Key passive, which makes it so that your minions, regardless of how many you have, gain increased attack speed and increased damage. It also continues to have that weird buggy interaction with Bone Prison canceling to be able to trigger a quote-unquote minion dying for another damage multiplier, so we got to keep doing that. But all in all, the stats on the new unique Gravebloom are good enough to warrant using. I've had the opportunity to test it, and on my unsanctified gear, I didn't remasterwork anything. None of this is perfect. It's not even approaching perfect, actually. It's pretty hilarious. I'm going to be able to very reasonably do tier 93, with Giga Chad pushers like Raniel having already cleared 96. Now, he and I are going a little bit back and forth on what's the optimal setup, and we're trying out different things. I'm personally using the Zan rune for overpower, whereas he's using Hulking Monstrosity on his boots to be able to get faster cooldown. We'll figure out what the meta version is eventually. So I'm going to include a planner down below just in case you want to try this out in the PTR yourself. I'm just going to have the setup that I have right here, which is going to be imperfect, unsanctified gear, but in addition to that, running the typical stuff that you would, obviously Gravebloom itself, and then the mythics that you would want. But before I go over the gear and the stats and all of that, because it's all available in the planner, I don't need to bore you there, we do have to talk about your golem options, because there's going to be a lot of people trying out a lot of different things, and each one has different strengths and weaknesses. Sadly, there's really only one option, which is the blood golem, but I'd rather educate you about all of them than leave you with questions. Let's go ahead and hop into the training dummy area so we can get a better understanding of exactly what I'm talking about. There are 3 different golems for you to choose. We have the bone, the blood, and the iron. You might notice that nobody ever recommends iron, and I'm just going to skip ahead real quick to explain why. Iron golem does slightly more damage with its activation than blood golem, but blood golem has a damage multiplier against a single target, making it strictly better on average. Iron golem attacks more than 50% slower than blood golem, which attacks 50% slower than bone golem. In addition to that, the iron golem's just general attack pattern isn't particularly good, and none of its benefits are particularly good. So because of that, we're just not going to use this guy. I wish we could, we just can't. So that leaves the other 2 golems. You have bone golem and blood golem. And on paper, it might seem like bone golem is the obvious choice, but why would that possibly be? Bone golem is going to generate 5 corpses when you use its activation. It's also going to taunt enemies, but there's a little bit of an issue with the bone golem, and that's that its typical activation doesn't actually do damage. If we check the tooltip, it explains that your bone golem is going to protect you and it's going to attack. That's all really nice. Originally, the bone golem was the only one that would actually cleave with its melee attack, meaning it would do AoE damage. Now all golems actually do AoE damage, so that was taken away from them. But what the bone golem does is it gains damage reduction and also gains armor as thorns, but sadly thorns has been bugged forever. So actually trying to scale the thorns damage of a bone golem doesn't really work. And you become unstoppable. This is normal for all golems. You're always going to become unstoppable when you activate with this. But again, the base activation doesn't actually do damage, so why would Bone Golem ever be used? Well, Bone Golem generating corpses is really important for Fell Gluttony. Fell Gluttony says that your Golem's activation is now going to do a huge area of damage. This is a massive, massive base of damage, and on top of that, your Golem is going to be consuming corpses around them to reduce the cooldown of Golem activation. Oh, there you go. It might not do inherent damage when it activates, but surely it's going to activate significantly faster, right? You have 3 Golems, each eating a corpse every second. That means that every second, your cooldown on Golem activation is actually reduced by 4 seconds. When your activation is only 6.42 seconds, that means that you should be able to activate this once every 1.5 seconds. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and see that in real time. So I'm going to be here. I'm going to be attacking. I have Decrepify on the target as well, which has a chance to reduce its cooldown on Lucky Hit Strike. And I'm just going to use all my activations. And you'll see that on average, we are activating our Golem basically once every 2 seconds-ish. Right? That's roughly how quickly we're doing it. And whenever we do, you'll notice that we have really big damage procs that pop out of it. We go from doing like 51 million damage to the target upwards of doing multiple billion, as long as all of our damage multipliers are adding up. So this has to be the cream of the crop of speed, right? In a large group of enemies, you would imagine all the Golems have similar activation, because the bigger a stack of enemies, the more likely you are to proc Decrepify. And it turns out the bigger the pack of enemies, the faster you're able to trigger it. Now, you will notice though, it's typically still taking about a second for this to activate, and this is inside of a massive pack of enemies. So what we're basically doing is waiting for that 1 second to tick by, and for the 4 seconds of cooldown reduction to happen from 3 of them eating a corpse, plus the 1 second naturally moving forward. Blood Golem, on the other hand, has 2 things going for it. One, your Blood Golem just has a 50% damage multiplier available. It also reduces how much damage the target takes, and it's also going to heal when it activates, making it incredibly tanky. So it's not taunting enemies, but it's better at surviving damage. But it just has an inherent 50% damage multiplier. That's big. On top of that, when it activates, it also does a massive amount of damage. It has a 210% weapon coefficient proc, and on top of that as well, it's also going to deal triple damage versus a single target. So it has a damage activation at all, does triple damage against a single target, and does 50% more damage. Okay, great, but it's not going to anywhere near be able to keep up with the speed of Bone Golem, especially against a single target, right? Well, if we run this same test, you'll notice that it's taking us about a second and a half for the Blood Golems to activate against this target. Now, how is that possible? Well, Fell Gluttony is still going to eat 1 corpse per Golem to be able to reduce its cooldown. So that 1 second goes by and you're reducing your cooldown by 4 seconds. And on top of that, Blood Golem is doing native damage with its activation. Why is that so important? Well, it's not listed on the tooltip of the Golem. They added Lucky Hit Chance as a native stat to your minions. And to give you an idea, I believe the skeletons have an 18% lucky hit chance base, and Golem has a 20% lucky hit chance base. That is very low. Now, we have a decent amount of lucky hit chance bonus on any given build. Like myself right now, I have 84%. That's nearly double. So let's go ahead and say that the Golem activation's lucky hit chance is about 35%. This is if they hit a target with their melee attack, and when they do damage with their activation. So if Bone Golem doesn't do damage with its activation, only does damage from Fell Gluttony, but Blood Golem does damage with both and has a 50% damage multiplier for both and has a 3 times multiplier for its base activation damage, there's no contest here. Blood Golem is just the best option. Now that we've got that out of the way, and hopefully I've answered all of your questions, let's go ahead and talk about the things that are a little bit nuanced about the build and what you need to understand of why Golem is doing so much damage and why we're sacrificing our minions in the first place. And it's all due to the changes here for the legendary node Hulking Monstrosity. This is going to increase your Golem's maximum life by 40%, and they're going to deal double damage. They have a 100% damage multiplier. In addition to that, though, your Skeleton Mage and your Warrior Sacrifice bonuses grant an additional 60% Golem damage. And this is going to work with both Memento Mori and the sacrificial aspect. What's actually really cool is that you'll notice that in the tooltip, it now tells you that your Golem is gaining 60% damage from this. In addition to this, though, we have those 2 sources that I named. Memento Mori says that sacrificing both your Skeleton Warriors and your Mages increases their sacrifice bonuses. And since part of their sacrifice bonus is that your Golem gains damage, this is increased. Sacrificial aspect says that your sacrifice bonuses are also increased by 83%. So this is actually double dipping. Not only are we just gaining more critical strike chance, which helps to get up to the 100% cap without having to have ridiculous gear, but it's also further increasing the vulnerable damage multiplier that your cold mages grant. And since they both then grant 60% damage multiplier from hulking monstrosity, that's increased further. That's what we call a double dip, when one thing affects two different systems that both increase something. Then when you add on the fact that the mace itself is clearly fully golem focused, so while you can use it on a regular minion build, you're going to be using an aspect slot that doesn't increase all your minions damage. It would only increase some of your golems damage, and it becomes quite obvious that there really is only this one option here, and sacrificing all of them, now that you have 3 golems, doesn't feel nearly as bad as it used to. Like I said, I'm going to have a planner down below so you can check out the skill tree, the recommended gear. It's not going to be pristine, right? It's not going to be perfect. We're in a PTR here, and the more time I spend trying to create a literal perfect build is the less builds that I get to test. But I want to put this video out there because I know people are really excited about Golem, and I am happy to report that, like, it is a fun build. It is rewarding to play. It feels nice. Having them all go Hulk smash and hit for multiple billions of damage is pretty cool. I don't think that I'm at optimal right now. Like, I don't think I've perfectly figured out exactly what the build is going to look like, which means it's actually kind of interesting because there's a lot of wiggle room for exactly what you could want it to do. There's an aspect called hulking, which you can put onto your boots. I'm currently using Cursed Aura, which allows me to use a different rune word, hence the conversation with Raniel earlier. But hulking is going to make this even more efficient, where your golems will have a chance to be able to reduce their own cooldown and generate corpses, which is nice so that you can further increase the efficiency of the Fel Gluttony aspect. And whether or not Fel Gluttony is the majority of the damage or the sub-majority of the damage, or what exact percentage of damage, is going to determine what we're trying to focus on as well. There you go. I tried to make this one a little bit quicker, a little bit short and sweet. I hope I still picked up on all the things that you're looking for. Again, check out the planner in the pinned comment. I'm also going to be keeping it in my build guide section in the Discord. The Discord link is in the description below. That's where I tend to keep all my things while I'm testing them in the PTR, and we're going to start ramping that up now. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss out on any other PTR coverage as it keeps coming out. I have a Shadow Blight build that's ridiculous that I want to be able to show you. Just a classic Shadow Blight build as well, which is very strong. I've already tested out Sever, and I've already tested out Blight. So I'm going to start working on some of the more interesting builds like the Bone builds, and then eventually the Blood builds as well. Although Blood builds are in a really rough spot right now. They lost a ton from the gearing changes. But if you would appreciate seeing all that and you don't want to miss out, click the button. You won't regret it. I'm trying to hit 100K before the end of the year. If you could help me out, that'd be great. Leave a like on the video and comment down below. Have you come across any weird bugs, interactions, things you didn't see other people talking about? You have questions, comments, concerns, whatever. Let me know down there. I try to answer every single comment, and hopefully I can get to your question as well. That's enough of me yapping, yo. Thank you very much for watching this video. I truly hope that it helps, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.